proudest day, and the proudest time, and the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all was said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the Rally podcast. And I suppose before we start, please like, share, rate, subscribe. We keep saying it, but please keep doing it. Conor, this week we're going to look back at the Mayo Forestry Rally. A Forestry Rally that's made a return to the championship. Great to see. And then what we're also going to look forward to is the Laois Heartlands on now this weekend. But Mayo at the weekend, we were told there were going to be really good stages. And by God, they did seem to be really good stages. The drivers all raving about them.
Yeah, listen, nice short, compact 6 stages, but you're right, the drivers were raving about them, and, you know, really, really good feedback from the event.
That's for sure, you know, and we're going to hear now from the top 3 overall. We're going to hear from Jason Mitchell, Andrew Purcell and Niall McGonigle, and also two-wheel drive one and co-driver Domhnall McAlaney as well too. And, you know, each of them just couldn't say, speak highly enough about the way the event was organised, the welcome they got. The stages were so good. Just there seemed to be a really good vibe about the whole Forestry Championship.
Yeah, you know, the championship is definitely on and up, and it's, you know, as we've seen with, you know, the national and the tarmac championship, they're becoming more competitive, and the times are getting tighter on the forestry, and it's getting really, really good.
That's for sure. You know, and that's something I spoke to Andrew Purcell about as well too. He's been going over and competing in the UK, and I was asking him, you know, what's the pace like here? Every bit as hot, you know, like, so it has to be so positive, you know, like, we know, yes, we love our tarmac rallying, but it's great to see that our forestry guys are, you know, can travel anywhere now as well.
That's it. Look, exactly. They're becoming competitive on the international stage. Considering we have limited events, we have limited kilometers available on the gravel that are competitive here in Ireland, and especially when you go to the likes of those big events, you know, in the UK, like Kielder Forest, that's big, wide, fast flowing stages that our guys and girls are going over and being competitive against the local talent there.
Yeah, and like, you know, we have, you know, as you say, limited, but there seem to be more clubs looking at it and, you know, embracing the forestry as well. So I think the next few years could just see an explosion of forestry rallying here.
Absolutely, listen, we hope so. Would love to see longer events, you know, bigger stages, etc. If it could ever happen, it'd be fantastic if it did.
That's for sure. So anyway, let's hear from the competitors. So first of all, we'll hear from Jason Mitchell, Andrew Purcell and Niall McGonigle, and then that will roll into the two-wheel drive one and co-driver Domhnall McAlaney. Mayo Forestry on Saturday, and return to Mayo Forestry. And Jason, a happy hunting ground for yourself?
Yeah, Kevin, another good day, Kevin, and I had a good run and there were great stages, you know, Kevin. So, you know, maybe if there's been a few ones getting a bit short, you know, but hey, look, I think Andrew said it on the day, you know, that good stages short are better than long stages not good. So no, good day all round. Kevin, no real complaints at all for once.
And Andrew, like, you know, he nipped you in the long stage in the first pass. You had a wee bit of bother with chicane. But like, other than that, like, there was nothing between you for the rest of the days, or the rest of the stages over the day.
No, to be fair, I think there was like a second between us, or less than a second on the first stage. Second stage was cancelled. And I think we both went into the third stage knowing this is the one that's going to decide the rally. And we were giving it a right go. I just got caught under braking coming down a hill, down into a bus stop, and hit the bale. Of course, it had to be a silage bale instead of a straw bale. And stalled the car and couldn't get the car to start, and usual pulling and dragging as you do when this thing happens. And got going again, and Jason got the jump, in fairness. And it's kind of that tight. He's been a step ahead really all year, so you can't afford to give him 2 or 3 seconds, let alone 10 seconds. And I suppose we gambled in service and went with a slightly harder tyre on the front for the last loop. And of course, on the way out, first stage out of service, started lashing raining. And we knew then straight away it was pretty much game over. It was just get through the 3 stages and get to the end of that stage. But we knew we weren't going to beat him on pace because he's been brilliant all year. So it was kind of, he's on 70s, we need to try something different. So we tried the 80s and it backfired really. That was it. Game over.
And you said there when you hit the bail, can you almost, you can almost hear the clock ticking away in your head, every second you're losing.
It's like slow motion because you could even see the bail coming and you're like, come on, stop. And it's not stopping. And we'd put a new cooler pack and everything into the front of the car during the week. And I was like, sure as God, now there's the cooler pack gone. And we haven't even got 20 kilometres out of it. Look, it's all part of it. If you don't try, you don't try. But as I said earlier, Jason seems to be on just that step ahead of everyone this year. So we need to try anyway.
Yes,
try and keep him honest. We're struggling with him at the minute, but need to try and keep him honest anyway.
and Niall, you were in the polo there at the weekend. A change of machinery, but it was all about building the pace and getting the confidence back.
Definitely, Kevin. I've been harping on about polos for years. I've been lucky. James gave me the car for the weekend after we had an off on the last stage in Tipperary, and we ended up in a roof for my first time. So that was unbelievable to get into it. And we didn't really do a test. I went to Icy Square for a wee run on Wednesday and just straight into the rally. But no, it was class, unbelievable car. Purcell left the bail out in the middle of the road for me on stage 3, and so that ended the whole plan. But it was unbelievable. Stages were class, and sure, when you're racing your mates, it's unreal. Like, they have the crack between stages and everything, and just brilliant to get back out again and get on the horse.
Yeah, because I suppose the longer you left it, the more you're going to be thinking about it, the more you're going to dwell on it, and the probably the short break probably helped from that point of view.
Definitely, if I hadn't got onto Yoke again, it would have been probably next year before I probably would have thought about it again. So probably the best thing to happen. Now, obviously, a lot of going on in the last few weeks. It was hard to go again, but we're glad now we did, I suppose, because if you didn't and you left it longer, the story. But no, we're glad we did, definitely.
Yeah. And that's something we should touch on too. You lost a really good friend, Sean Tubb, as everybody would know him as. He's one of those characters around the service area. If he seen you coming, you knew about it, because there was always a big yo-ho and a low and a bit of crack.
Oh, definitely. Everybody knew Tubb, hey, and so he's about to win a court since he was a child, really, and that's why I got to know him through Canon and Connor. He was some buck. He was always about, and he would have been by your side anywhere you went to go or anything you went to do. He was always there. Definitely a big loss to the whole community that now, but we had a sticker on the car for him and stuff there, and he come for the run with us. And I was actually studying on Saturday morning. I wasn't Jason tell you in the service area. I was running about. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I was going to start the rally or what. And I thought to myself, that man would do some laughing if he didn't start the rally this morning. So we went. It was just hard with Brian getting injured and Cavan, and you not know what way he is. But look, we got a bit of good news about him at the start of the first stage, and it was nearly like winning the lotto. So it put us in a good state for the day then.
Yeah, because we know how exhilarating rallying can be, and the great highs it can give us. But last weekend we seen the darker side of rallying. And thankfully it doesn't happen too often. But the way the whole rally community is gathered round, the way they supported, the Roberts family, and even the response, for Gary and Brian and everybody else that got injured last weekend. It's just it makes you very proud.
Oh, for sure. Everybody does get behind it, and the times and need so. That's one thing about the rallying community. There's days people wouldn't even look at each other, but then in times of need, I suppose that's when it really shows.
Jason, that is very evident. At times of need, no matter what you need, there'd always be somebody there to give you a hand out. Whether it's a part for a car, or it's a shoulder, just to lean on or whatever. The rally community is there for you.
Yeah, look, Kevin, and as you know, I'm fairly new to the sport, and I would say last week would have been the first week where I really felt it. We Gary and Brian, and then obviously Di. You sort of, it sort of hits home, I think, and I think with Paddy being so close to what happened that weekend, I could really feel with Paddy, how much he was suffering, and especially on Saturday morning, I could see that this had a big effect on Paddy. And for a man that's so tough, and quiet and doesn't complain or just gets on with things, you can really feel. You can really, I think it hits home harder when somebody is like that. And as Niall said there, there was a bit of good news come through about Brian before we went on to the first stage, which I think give us all a good lift. But genuinely going out to the first stage, I never felt pressure like it on a rally car. Anyway, that's all I can say. I felt like that I needed to make sure that nothing silly happens, because obviously, that's not something we want after a week that we just had. But thankfully, we all had a good day, and I think everybody was home safe. So I think rallying has this effect on people, doesn't it? Like, these bad things happen, and it picks itself up and goes on. And you could see where the GoFundMe page for Di was unbelievable. Like, and you can see, they're definitely a togetherness with everybody when them occasions happen.
That's for sure. And I'm sure, Andrew, like you'd want to echo that too. I think it is great to hear that, the Brian, that the news is more positive and things are looking good.
No, exactly. And I think it's when it happens so close to home as well for everybody, like, no matter what side of the country, like, no matter who it is, there's always a connection through. It's not just it happened to such and such. There's always a connection where somebody like the likes of the two lads there that had Paddy in the car, obviously, or as Niall had said at the weekend, he would have been talking regularly to Brian on a daily basis, and then Brian gets hurt, and it kind of has a knock-on effect. And no more than myself, I would have been out with Craig and Garrett when they had their accident in Sicily. Myself and Carl Atkinson would have been out there, and then you hear it die, and it brings everything back up again. And I think as a rally community, we all put on a brave face, and you kind of try and put it to the back of your head. But when there's been a week like that, it really brings it home to everybody. Like, but as you both said, like the GoFundMe page, when Damien Cole and John Stone originally put it up, when I seen it going up in a couple of minutes, we hope to raise 10,000 to help with funeral costs, and like within 20 minutes, it was at 25 grand. Yeah. And then it went to 50, and I think today it's like 130 or 135,000 sterling. Like, it's brilliant. Yeah. I don't think there's many other sports out there that can pull it together like the motorsport community.
Yeah, that's for sure. The way they rally around, and I suppose like getting back then to the weekend, Jason, like that was new stages. Nobody had any advantage. You weren't looking at DVD from the previous year, and it was just, it was how you prepared for the event. Put the prep in before the event, having the car, feeling comfortable in the car, and it just seemed to click with you.
Yeah, look, Kevin, I suppose I can see, and I don't know Andrew very well, but I can sort of, through Niall and other things I hear, I know Andrew's putting in the work this year, and I know Andrew's a very good driver, and we all know Niall. Like, Niall can turn it on whenever he can just jump in and go. Like, and I know he come from an accident, but still, knowing Niall's nature, no matter what he tells you there, Kevin, I know when he gets in behind the wheel, there's never you wouldn't want to be relying on him to go slow. I know I put it that way. So there was that I was expecting Niall and Andrew to be going hard, and look, for me, look, I suppose stage one, like, we all go out and we try and see where things are. Yeah, stage two was gone for us, and so it was down to stage three. Now, one thing for me, this time I was running first, which I know when they're saying there are other cars in the road, but I really did get surprised. I really had a surprise, actually. Not the looseness of the stages, because we all know they're loose. Even if you're on second, third, fourth, you always feel the looseness. But I think one of the things that sort of caught me a few times is the lines, and I probably didn't consider that enough. And there was one time on stage three I was nearly caught out, but the lines threw me into the wrong line because of the other cars, and it's something that I need lucky maybe to get away with it, but something that I have to learn going forward, because it is, you do need the experience, if you're, we're in a position now that we are able to win rallies, and we are going to have to expect to be up there. So I need all these wee bits are learning. And I suppose over the last the last few rallies I've been trying to learn the car, and we've been making subtle changes, every time I've tested before I went out, and try not to go too rash either way, and just try and see if, take a wee bit of information out of each rally and go, this is what we'll try a wee bit more, not do anything too drastic. And we are slowly we're slowly making wee improvements all the time, and I feel that there's more there, but it's just I'm gonna try to learn myself this time to set up a car. So I just have to take the steps that's necessary to try and do that, because something maybe that I'm very guilty of is asking everybody and going all sorts of ways. But this time I'm just getting under the car, whatever I feel, where she's strong, or where she's letting go, or not holding up, or not getting me braking deep enough, or I'm just taking that information in, and after the rally I'm sitting and I'm ringing ringing Kevin, or putting it down and saying, look, she wasn't that good here, where do we go next? So just a few clicks and try again, and hopefully as the season grows, sorry, like I'm farming again here. As the season goes, I suppose, I want to keep trying to get that wee bit more out of the car, because the car, has obviously got a lot of potential. Everybody can see that with everybody that's stepping into them, and I just need to find what I like now, Kevin, and hopefully we can keep improving.
I think you need to take a couple of big jumps with it. I think this approach you're taking of the small pick here and there, I think Niall, he'd be better off to go with a couple of big twists in one direction, wouldn't they, and try it next.
And Andrew, we've seen with yourself too, you've tested a variety of different Rally 2 R5 cars, and because they are built to such tight regulations, there's no huge advantage that there's certain cars at certain stages and certain conditions and all. How are you finding the Fiesta now?
I suppose the Fiesta. I find the Fiesta good. It's funny how you chat about stuff. Like Niall would have been saying polo, or it was the car to have at the time. I jumped into it, just couldn't get any good of it. Didn't suit me. Literally was pulling my hair out, and was at the stage where I was kind of like, I need to give this up. I'm gone too old. I just can't do this anymore. This thing of going and finishing fourth and fifth, and I was like, nah. And we took a notion last September to go and do Clare Forestry, I think it was, on the Thursday or Friday, and rang Gary, thrown the gravel kit in, just went to the rally bang first stage where fastest are on the pace or thereabouts, and the bug bites then, and you come home on Saturday evening and next Monday morning at a car bought. And so we had a Mark 1 Fiesta, we had a Mark 2 Fiesta, and we had a Polo sitting at home, and I'm going, what am I at here? Do you know what I mean? But we sold the Polo. To me, the Fiesta, chassis wise and braking wise, suits my driving style. Definitely hasn't got the power of the Polo, and it's funny, it was the first thing Niall said at the end of the first stage when we were chatting at the start of the second stage. He commented on the brakes, and he said, geez, the brakes in the Polo are not near as good as the Fiesta. And it's funny where you both can notice the same things, whereas it's the opposite for Niall. He's jumped into the Polo and he said, I wouldn't get back in the Fiesta, it's night and day. The Polo's way ahead, but for sure the Polo is more grunt, but the Fiesta just suits me at the minute. We just need to figure out how to make it go a bit faster, that's all.
And Niall, so the Polo's a young man's car then, and you need to just grab it with the scruff of the neck?
I don't know, Kevin, I suppose the same thing. Everybody's different, and maybe I just I'm a wee bit biased with the Polo. I think we've 7 or 8 of them about the workshop there, so maybe that's a bit of it. But no, I've always been a fan, and even back when Jason got his at the start, you're always testing, you can see the potential in the car. And whenever I was lucky enough, him and James got that car, I was able to get out and drive one and see what it was like in Sweet Lamb one day, and it was unbelievable. So I always says I wanted to go to a rally in one just to see, and I love the chassis in it, to be honest. I like a stiffer car, and it kind of worked straight away from the get-go, and I didn't even change anything in the car the whole day. It just worked, and look, you definitely could push the boundaries a wee bit more on it, if a bit more miles. Mm-hmm. But maybe we'll have to go and see Purcell and get a few pounds. We could
No comment here. Like Andrew, we've seen that this year you've been competing, in the UK, and what's the pace like here in comparison? We often say, how quick our guys is going, and the envelope's been pushed and pushed and pushed. Do you find the pace is hot here too?
Definitely the pace is hot here. I think there are different kind of stages. UK, it's big wide open stages. Here it's narrow tractor with laneway roads, and we're going at the pace in a tractor laneway that you would be on a dual carriageway in the UK, if that makes sense. It's just different type of driving and different type of style. But the rally we probably done in Wales last day probably wasn't. There was competition, but there wasn't competition to the extent of what would be here. Like it was the Welsh Championship. If you go to a BTRDA round, something like that, I'm sure the competition will be very high at it as well. But the good thing with the championship this year, like you have the Moonraker went to, I know myself, none of the three of us actually done it, but the Moonraker went to brand new stages this year. Mayo was in its brand new stages again. It's 10 years. So it really makes it 11 playing field. You go to a BTRDA round and you go to Nicky Grist or Malcolm Wilson, and the guys are doing it the last 10 years. Do you know what I mean? It's no more than if I have to go and try and race these two in the bushwhacker, I might as well stay at home before I go. Do you know what I mean?
You were doing the bushwhacker before much even you and Niall.
You're already look. You go on the bushwhacker. I think Niall is living 15 years ago. Like I think it was 2012 was the last time I done the bushwhacker. Do you know what I mean? But would have done it a good few times, co-driving with Martin Cairns and stuff like that. But you know what I'm saying? Here this year, like Donegal is coming in now as well. I think they're coming back supposedly at the end of the year. It's going to be running in a couple of years. So you've just had 3 or 4 events. Tarlow was in at the start of the year. There was another new rally up in Wicklow. So that's 4 rounds of the championship where no one's been in 8 or 10 years. So, and it shows in the times that it's all thereabouts. Do you know what I mean? We just need Jason, as I said, to take a big chunk of 8 or 10 clicks in one direction there to make his car go in the right direction.
But Jason, isn't that what it's all about? Going to new territory and and finding the limits of the car.
Well, funny, Kevin. It's one thing that I have been trying to improve. And I find it quite interesting on Saturday because on stage 3, I'll not lie. Like Andrew and I suppose the rest of them, we looked at that stage and went, "This is the one that's going to need to make a difference." And I was in the back of my head going, "They wait till after service," so I get to see everything and being. I'm not saying it's a bad advantage or not. I'm not making no excuses, but being the first in the road and nowhere lines and wondering to go on and all the wee things that I'm trying to understand myself. I sort of thought maybe I shouldn't be going for it on stage 3, but hey, funny when I got on there. I give it a decent run through, and not perfect, but still I would say a good pace for the first time going through a stage and only watching them off a video. And one thing that I really liked, and I know maybe there was a bit of management going on the last stage, and a bit of management going on, but my time in the first time through it was 6:14. My time through it the next time was 6:18.6. So I was 4.6 seconds slower on my next run through it, with a clean road and everything there. So for me, they're the wee things that I'm, and we're all racing, but we all know that these rallies are normally, I know that in gravel's a wee bit different because if you're up front and you're cleaning the road, you have a chance to come back in hard. But a lot of rallies are won on the first loop, and it's something that I probably was always, and I was nearly caught out of, to be honest, but in a corner where I had it read wrong off the DVD. But it does. I think that's that's where the money is. You know what I mean? You have to be quick out of the blocks, and you have to, you maybe get one stage to feel your way in there, but you have to start going then. So, and that's something I'm probably most happy about at the weekend, that I was able to do that. I know the boys had their troubles and all, but I was still able to do it and sort of felt good about that.
Mm-hmm. Niall, we've seen, in previous incarnations, even in the forestry as well, you probably could have had that first loop and went hard but not on the limit. You can't do that anymore now. It has to be right from the very first corner of the first stage, because every corner, every metre counts.
Oh, 100%. You have to be on it from the word go. You was all staying at the house, Kevin. I was very glad that the first stage was only 4K, so I had a wee chance. I would have been happy enough to drop 5 or 6 to them in there. I was lucky it was closer than that, but sure, you know yourself, like it's nip and tuck now from the word go. You just have to be on it or forget about it. It's one of them things.
Mm-hmm. And to hear then, what Andrew was saying about, the pace here is equally as hot as as he's seen across the water and all. That would give you good confidence. I know you've made a couple of forays across the water. If you're good here, you're good anywhere. That's to you now.
Oh, it's to me. Sorry.
Right.
Without a doubt, I was very nervous. We went out to Grisdale. Andrew was there too. Maybe it wasn't last year or the year before. Maybe the year before. I was very, very nervous about going out there, because you're away, you're out of your own territory, and you just feel that you're not at home. And we went out on the first stage at night. I'd never drove in the dark before. And we spun halfway through the stage and had to drive up the stage and turn again, and we were still third or fourth quickest. And I was over the moon about that, and then we went out the next morning. It was pure white, and we turned and went home. We couldn't even get to the boat. Me and Andrew was talking about the start of the last stage on Saturday. We had to stay in the same town. We couldn't get out of the town that night with snow, and he still didn't buy a drink to this day.
It's bad, Kevin, when you have your breakfast at the same table, your lunch at the same table, and by the time the evening comes around, you're still sitting at the same table. there was nothing else to do. It was literally the whole town was shut down, and we were just sitting in this little village, and you couldn't get out, you couldn't get on, but worked out in the end, I suppose. Yeah.
There have been some lies told there, Kevin.
Some boys scandalised.
Going back to that and going away, the Nicky Grist as well, we went out there last year. And that's what I was telling Jason one day, the stages out there is mega. But it's the same thing as Andrew says, you're going back out to territory that all the boys has been using. The first stage, we were standing at the start of the first stage in Nicky Grist, and there was boys that are able to tell you about every single corner in the stage, and you're saying, Jesus, how am I going to be in the same town land as this boy? But the stages just draw you in to go fast, and it's class being away as well. It gives you a wee bit of extra buzz.
Mm-hmm. And Jason, you have probably, the way you went about your rallying, you went away and done these foreign events, and because you started out during COVID, and now you're back home rallying. Would this give you the bit of an itch to maybe go and try some of these events?
Well, I tell the truth, Kevin. I think the more the way this is working out this year, it was sort of work that pushed me into going to gravel. Now, I always enjoyed gravel better, but I always enjoyed gravel better. But I am. Always said that I want to try and get, better in tarmac. I need to get quicker in tarmac. But, I said this year we work. I just said, no, look, gravel championship, go and enjoy it. And it's, I know, from handiness, it's great. I didn't land down to Mayo until 11 o'clock on Friday night, and bounced out on Saturday morning and chilled out, and we went and rallied and back home, and no real fuss. But I think regarding going out across the water again, that's something that I would like to maybe do. I'd like to maybe go. I'm strongly considering going out and doing the Grampian here, so I'm, and just go out and see where we are, as well, because them boys obviously go very hard in the BRC too, and I suppose if we're going to get our clock cleaned, we might as well go out and see if it, how fast they go, but I do get confidence seeing Andrew and other ones out there. You do get confidence that you mightn't be too far away. So look, definitely in gravel anyway, Kevin. I would definitely be keen to go out again to answer the question.
For sure. And like Andrew, we've seen like Mayo stepping up there, and you mentioned other events now that's either new to the championship or returning after a number of years. Like only a few years ago, like Forestry Rally in Ireland, you had maybe 4 or 5 events. It's getting to the stage now there's going to be 10, 12 events, and that just has to be healthy for everybody. Because even the events that's been there for years, it makes them look at their game and see what they can keep, what they need to do to improve and to keep the level up.
No, exactly. And like, I think clubs are starting to see, you see 4 or 5 years ago, you were lucky on a southern round if you got 55, 60 cars, and it was taking 60 cars to break even. So clubs are like, well, why would we do this when we can go and run a tarmac rally? We'll run a tarmac rally, we'll get a full entry, and we'll make 10 or 15 grand. Do you know what I mean? But people are starting to realise now we've got 25 to 30 plus J1000s. It's really took off. Like the 2-wheel drives. I think every rally bar this event the weekend gone has started over 100, 120 cars. You know what I mean? So then you get some people complaining, the stages are rough or this. The stages starting out are very good, but what's happening is if you have 120 cars and before you hit 60, it's the same as doing 4 passes over the stages. So yeah, of course they're going to be a little bit, but like those stages at the weekend, and I commented on the video, in fairness to the club, they were short on mileage, but yeah, short on mileage, but I prefer quality over quantity all day long, and it's definitely good for the championship. John Quillen, those, and Andrew Mullen coming on board Sligo Palace. It's probably got a bit of profile as well, in fairness to the championship, and they're giving it a good push, and they're making an effort. And I remember doing that championship years ago and winning. I think it was Monaghan Forestry or something like that, and it was the first ever gravel rally I'd won. We came into Paraferma. It wasn't even the finish ramp. There was nothing. All right, okay, grand. Next week there was some drugs test, or there was something, and that was it. And we went home. There was nothing. So in fairness to the guys, John Quill and them, they're making an effort. Like they're doing finish ramps for J1000s. They're doing it for top 2-wheel drive. So everybody's getting a little bit of limelight out of it. But I think it's in a good place, and I think this split of tarmac rallies running every second year is now giving the clubs a year gap where there's nothing to do. So I think we'll only see more. Like next year, you'll have Killarney back in again, I presume, and stuff like that. But they seem to have got the mix of the time right. Like I would have always been onto them. Say, for instance, Caricature Motor Club in Waterford, they run Ravens Rock the week after or 2 weeks after Donegal, and they always struggle for entries. And then they're on Carrick Forestry in February, and it's always lashing rain and dog rough. And I was like, do some common sense and switch it around and put the Ravens Rock at the start of the year where you're going to get entries, and put the Forestry into the middle of June where the weather's going to be good. And I think both the lads will vouch for that. Like, we've had dust in Moonraker, we've had massive dust in Mitchelstown, and we had great stages again, even with the wet the weekend. So moving the calendar away from the traditional January, February, early March into the late April, May, June is definitely, in my eyes anyway, has been a massive plus for the championship.
Yeah, because now that would make sense, like the roads are harder, they'll take the abuse, they haven't been almost washed away before they even start.
Definitely, the stages is in great condition, like all year they have been. I didn't do Carlow or the Moonraker, but even from an organising point of view, from back to when I would have been running 5 Mile Town, you always were in a battle against the weather. Like, and I remember when I was setting up the stages the day before the rally and having 2 inches of snow, and you wondering, is this going to happen? And the weather just turning you in that night and being lucky. But the stages, the roads end up very wet, and you end up with bigger repair bills because the road's soft and takes more to repair it. And you're always against it. Like, I know forestry runs into the problem in the summer with hen hire birds and different bits and pieces, but there's always way around them things, and it is worth taking a look at for some clubs.
That's for sure. And Jason, I suppose we should pay tribute to Mayo Motor Club, dipping their toe back into the Forestry Rally, and after so many years, like, you seem to be universally, great stages, and it seemed to run very much on time, very efficient, very efficient rally.
Yeah, first class, Kevin. And I have to say, look, I know, like Andrew, all the gravel rallies have been good there. And like, I know there was a comment maybe on what Mitchelstown being a wee bit rough, but I totally agree with Andrew. Like that, the stages are 100%. Like, you can't put that amount of cars over any stage and knock it up. But Mayo, like the surface, like Killian did did say it, you know, and I thought it was maybe him trying to sell his home rally, but you know, the stages were good, you know, and there's a funny, you know what, you know, when we get home and we look at our in cars and stuff, you know, like there is some great piece of road there to show about in car, you know, when you're flat out, like, and you're going over a crest and down on the dips and the, you know, like at a, you know, being in the car at them speeds and that sort of surface and, you know, taking them corners at that speed, you know, like it has some feeling, and you know, you can only hope that Mayo runs again shortly.
Andrew, there's no buzz like it, and it's like that whenever the feeling's so good.
No, exactly. Like it's when you're in flat and fifth gear and you're on full hang and you're between bumpers on one ditch and the back bumpers on the other ditch, and you're on the bump stop on the lock and you're going, please come back, and it just comes back. Whereas you do that in tarmac, you're rolling down the road, like, and the lads will both vouch for that, like, you know what I mean? You just get away with, it feels like you get away with so much. And a couple of years ago you would have said, yeah, the pace on tarmac is way higher, but to be honest, I'm starting to think that the pace on gravel is starting to get up there now as well, like, you know what I mean? So it's here to be great if there was a couple more. The top lads dipped their toe in it as well. Like, I know Josh has been in and out of the forest, or Sam have been in and out. They haven't been there in a while. It'll be great to see them back now, because I think they'd enjoy the stages that have been put on as well, like, you know.
And Niall, you know, like we've seen at the end of the last stage, you know, the friendship, you know, yes, there was a battle on, and you know, they'd done nothing to take, you know, a few seconds here or there, but I think you said it was like, you know, you speak to Jason every day, you speak to Andrew 2 or 3 times a week, like that was really just mates go rallying.
Oh, without a doubt, and that's what it's all about. You know, when we put our helmets on, surely we would dive out over the top of each other to get a second, but at the end of the stage and at the start of the next stage, if anybody needed anything, you get it, and it's all about the crack, Kevin. Like, if you don't have the crack, you as well not going, and that's what it's all about. I genuinely didn't look at the times when I left service and didn't realise I was so close to Andrew. And
You believe that, Jason? Yeah.
Not about Andrew. Not about.
genuinely, I would tell you now, if I genuinely didn't know I was so close.
Yeah, you're blushing there now.
Yeah, Andrew, the same thing that he was just going out to drive round.
Yeah. Jason, we were both standing at the start of the last stage in Mitchelstown. Yeah. And Niall was dragging on the fag like it was the last fag he's ever going to do. And Darren Goss was gone 2 seconds ahead of him, and it was like he couldn't even talk. He was dragging the fag that much. And next group we got to the end of the stage, and we heard he had his accident, but he was okay. And I knew well he was only whatever it was 3 or 4 seconds behind. But in that last stage, I was like, we seen what he tried to do in Mitchelstown. He's going to drive out over the top of me to try and beat me here. He's no more out for a spin of a Saturday afternoon, like, you know. So, yeah, he tried the other tactics, like, but he needs to. He's good at a lot of things, but he definitely needs to brush up on the mind game. That's for sure.
The problem was there wasn't a bolt of the car, man. I would say that was the biggest issue.
Andrew, do you believe that?
No. I think Niall rallies like I used to rally a couple of years ago. We'll worry about it on Monday.
Hey, where did I learn that from?
Yeah. When you get a bit older, you get a bit wiser, I think, and that's halfway problem.
But Kevin, go back to at the end of the last stage was great, because obviously it was good to see Jason winning again, and then Andy Walsh had mentioned to me, "Oh, you got within half a second of Andrew," and I says, "Oh, geez, was that all it was? Like, I shouldn't have left it off before the finish line." Oh, that's good. That's good. Definitely good crack.
Yes.
And I think it is important too. You know, I think that part of it is important, because we do all get tied up on this, you know. But like genuinely, like we're not getting paid for this. Like, and I do think that part of the game needs to be kept, because I think if we all pull back on this and took a wee look at it, we all want rally ones and all, but I think, hey, you know, it's definitely a lot nicer when there's no pressure and a bit of crack and getting the end of stages and having a laugh, you know what I mean? Because, you know, I'm sure all 3 of us would love to be given a call from John Coyne or something, you know, for looking to take us somewhere, but I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. So I think at that stage now we just enjoy the crack while we're out there and just hope that Andrew and Niall doesn't beat me.
The only problem is you two boys have too many birthdays, and I had too many steaks. So we're all.
So you don't think Coyne's going to be ringing you this weekend?
You'll be looking for a lift to the airport or something.
But Andrew, we've seen what John Coyne is doing, and we can see it with mentioned earlier the Junior 1000. I think there was nearly 30 there in Mayo at the weekend. Irish rallying is in a healthy place at the moment, and in the next 10 years, I think it's just going to take off like a skyrocket.
No, for sure. In fairness to John Coyne and Sean McHugh, I'd say everybody at the start was kind of a bit skeptical and, was there this or was there that or was there favourites but they've really put a proper structure in place, and anybody that stands back and looks at it says, well, there you go, get into your J1000. And you can even see some of the J1000s are even in left-hand drive J1000s. So they're making the effort and they're consciously making the effort. And then you've got which is nice to see as well, because financially there's a massive jump from a J1000 into a Rally 4 car. And it's great to see now that the old R2 cars or the R2Ps are really starting to come popular again, where they had really dropped off in value. They're starting to come back a bit, and they're kind of bridging the gap. You know what I mean? So they're an affordable jump up. And obviously then into the Rally 4, and do you have the Rally 3 and the whole way up along. But it's great. And it's great that he's picking up the talent and he's giving the guys a shot. And you have the guys that you would always say, geez, if he had money, he'd go far, or if he had the back, and he'd go far. And well, it's up to you now to put the effort in, and there's no excuses why if you don't put the effort in that it's not going to work. Like Josh is doing great out there. He gets a bit of slack here and there, but you got to realise the pressure those guys are under. Like he's jumped into a big car, and to go the last day and to be beaten his seasoned teammate, it proves they're going in the right direction, definitely, for sure.
That's for sure. I guess Jason, yourself and Josh McLean, you'd be fairly tight, and what the effort that guy's putting in. Like he is out pounding the roads. He's looking at DVDs. It's a full-time, it's a full-on effort.
100%, Kevin. Obviously I don't see him too often now, but even hearing the boys talking at the weekend, every time they drive past his house, you can see they must be able to see the computer, the computers beside the window, and they're saying he's glued to it, so he's definitely putting in the work. But the boy, like Andrew saying there as well with John Coyne and all, I'm heavily involved with rugby as well, and you start boys young and give them the right tuition, and levels raised very quick, and we've seen that through our own club. And rallying will be very much the same, and Irish rallying, I would say, is going to get very, very competitive, and it's going to get harder and harder because and I hear people even saying that the face of Irish rallying is changing a bit there now. There's a new there's a new squad of boys about to come through here again, and I'm looking at that, and the boys that they're talking about retiring are 10 years younger than me, and I'm sort of this is not really what I want to hear, but no, I think it's really going to I think with John and Sean McHugh and all them putting on that work, it's obviously going to make the level higher and higher and more difficult for the rest of us to try and do anything.
For sure, and now only the guys that get signed up to the academy, they're going to skyrocket, but that's lifting the level right through. It's navigators, it's drivers, it's everything, and this is just lifting the Irish rallying. Just we've seen it over tarmac, gravel, the Northern Ireland Championship, everything just rising and rising and rising.
Level's very high, Kevin. I was actually, I had a customer of mine done a test a few weeks ago, and he brought John Armstrong along for some tuition, and the different things that man was doing, to even spend. I was lucky to spend the day with him. To be honest, I know John going back as far as maybe 15 years ago. We used to do a room to race together and a simulator in new buildings, and the amount of things that he was going through on the test was unbelievable. It was properly professional and as good as I've ever seen, to be quite honest. It just shows you that that's what they've been taught to do, and that's what they're all doing. And you go back to the J1000s even the weekend, and because we have Aiden's two lads doing them, doing the J1000 now as well, we take a wee bit of closer eye on it. And, the top six, they all finished within 10 or 12 seconds. It was a real tight race all day, and even James Maché only won it by half a second. Like, it was really nip and tuck everywhere.
Yeah. And them cars are so equal. You know, as it's down to the prep that goes into the car and the two people in the car on the day as well.
Without a doubt. And to be fair, maybe at the start it was a little bit sketchy on the scrutineering side of things, but they have got it well tightened up and they are placing it quite well. And it's good to see that, because that means that the cub can go and drive his heart out, and if he's fast, it shows that he's fast in at the end.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose now to start wrapping things up then now, do you see yourself now continuing on with Irish Forestry now when you've signed up to the championship?
Can't see it, Kevin, to be honest. Like, well, I do. We had a good run at the Jim Welch last year. Me and Jason was at it again, but I would love to do it, but I can't see it. We're very busy now for the rest of the year of Donegal and all that to get through now first, and we've got quite a few cars doing the rest of the championship. But we'll play it by ear and see. Like, I have to get my own car back to fixed again now. We have to worry, as Andrew says, we worry about it on the Monday. That's gone back a few weeks, but now we'll get it back together now again and see what way it takes us. And I'll not panic yet. Like, I know 5 million towns talking about running again at the end of the year. We'll see if we can get Purcell up there to give him a good rattle around that.
Yeah, that's the challenge, Andrew.
No, I'd stay at home. You're all right.
And Andrew, from your own point of view, will you continue on with the championship and double your toe in across the water as well?
Yeah, I don't know. The championship's kind of gone really at this stage. There's no going to be catching Jason. Like, he just once he gets any kind of couple of finishes, he has it in the bag. But Clerk Forestry will be Liam's home event. We'll probably do it, but the plan is to go to, I think it's Greystokes is on in 3 weeks' time in Scotland, so we'll go there. And the following weekend, then Nicky Grist is the next round of that Welsh Championship. We stupidly signed up for the Welsh Championship and we're getting the maximum score on the last round, and it's only 2 rounds in. So look, we'll go to. I want to kind of see our pace where that's next round of BTRDA as well. So we'll go there, and plan is go to Greystokes. Everything goes okay there, and go to Nicky Grist. Sorry, and it's kind of a case of worry about it on Monday. If we have something to go to the next one, we go to something in the next one. If we don't, we don't. You know, but championship boys, we'll do Jim Welch, but after that, there's no plans. Yeah.
And Jason, is it get the gravel or get the gravel kit pulled off and the tarmac bits on there?
Yeah, look, I would say that's the plan, Kevin. You know, but like I'm very torn, you know, because I do want to try and keep I want to try and keep at the gravel, you know, because I think next year I don't think I'll do any gravel next year. I think.
Hallelujah.
Look, I need.
You sure you want to leave it this year altogether, Jason? You know what? It's better off going to tarmac.
No, I think if look, I think keep my head in gravel this year, and maybe move on to tarmac next year, and then try and start early and hopefully work is a bit quieter or has settled a wee bit, and then we can try and get our head on more into it and try and give it a go again as well, just to see if we can try and do something that satisfies me in that.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose even at this stage is already the thought process working towards late September and the bushwhacker coming up.
Well, you know, Kevin, if they'd all clear off and let me go to the bushwhacker in 34 mile, so they would, I'd be quite happy, because I heard that they do a 34 mile now for the Skoda, like, so the new Skoda. So hey, if they would all go and leave me alone there now and just let me win that and let me go to this, I'd be much appreciated there, boys. But
it's not all you have to worry about. You need to cancel a flight from Australia for.
No, 100%. But that's no. Look, hey, we all know when Cahan and Paddy gets back, like, we know what's going to happen there, like, so. Yeah, I think any of us go and try and race the two boys, we're going to have to be on our game, like. But hey, we're surely going to give it a go anyway, and we're going to try we'll definitely try this year if we can get the big chimney on her. But let's see.
Domhnall, the weekend just come away with the 2-wheel drive one. Great result.
Good result. I suppose we knew from the first couple of rounds we done that we could be competitive in it, and I suppose when we seen the stages down there, the smoothness of them suited the car, and I suppose we knew from stage one, even though Damien thought himself on stage one, he says I didn't really get into it, and I thought that was a quite smooth run. And in the forestry, it's all about a smooth run, you know. No point going hard and then a big overshoot or sideways all the time. So the first stage, I felt it felt good, and then the time showed that as well. So that set us up for the day then.
Yeah. And is there a different style to the way you can control the car in the forest than there is in the tar?
Totally different altogether. Car slows up a lot quicker in the forestry. Like you're carrying on speed to the corners, but the gravel actually slows you. And Damien's quite capable of getting the car a wee bit sideways to get it slowed up. So first few corners you think this is not going to happen, but no, it does happen. It does happen. It's totally different. As opposed to take off sliding on the top of the tire, it's a totally different feeling.
Yeah, and the historic car as well too. A complete it's roughly about 100 brake horsepower less, but I say
that power suits the forestry very well. I think that type of power. Too much power in the forest is not the advantage. Now, look, I suppose you have a lot of other things not going for you. If you want to look at the negatives, you have a H-pattern box, which took a wee bit of getting used to, and he's looking around at that, and then you have no power steering, and you have Damien flicking fingers because he suffers a bit with his hands anyway. All that, I suppose, and the Bilstein suspension, of course. But yes. I suppose the first rally we done, I didn't know what class we were meant to be on. I think we were in class 13. They got us changed, but I didn't believe the car was historic, until we chatted at the end of the rally. So, no, look, it's a good car in the forest. There's no question about it. And it's been proven by those other lads in England that are going very, very hard in them cars. They are good cars. There's no question about it,
Yeah, because we've seen some of them recent rounds of the British historic and the likes of Crossing and these guys that are coming from here going across, and they're up there and nipping at the Rally 5 cars. Never mind the other two.
Crossing's one of the benchmarks too. Yeah. He can go his space. He's going very, very well in that car in the forest.
Yeah. But you just have to take great confidence, when you're racing Hugh McQuaid and the first rounds there, Shane McGurr made an appearance as well. Whenever you're racing them, you're not going slow.
Well, look, I suppose there's never intention to go slow in it. Damien's always going to be trying to be competitive, and he is. Damien's a talented driver. There's no question about that. We've always known that on the tar. And he could sit out of a car for a long time, get back in and be competitive again on the car. And that stands to him. And it was both the first day in the forestry down in Arklow. He took to it like a duck to water, and he was confident after the first stage. He was happy, So when he bought that car came up. He was looking at different ideas, and as I said, he was looking for something to throw a bit of sparkle back into it. And he seems to be getting his mojo from this,
because people tend to forget. Damien was a very accomplished gravel driver, back in the Evo days.
We only done a couple of gravels in the gravel rallies on the Evo, but no, definitely. I think we're up and down. One year we were third overall and down in the first time ever really in with the car. So no, look, he definitely he likes gravel. He enjoys it, As I say, maybe he was getting a wee bit bored, and that's to a bit of new fun into it, Yeah. He's a hard enough man to get out sometimes and get motivated, but he seems to be now looking to go to these rallies, Sometimes he's looking for excuses out of rallies, but he's looking to go to these rallies,
Connor, you want to come in there, will you?
Yeah, we mentioned the fact, it's a historic car, but the times you were setting the weekend up against some very modern machinery, what were you conscious of that at the time, or was it only afterwards you were aware of that?
I always say in those cars, when they're smooth, it never feels fast. Sometimes it feels fast when things are a bit erratic. So it was smooth from the word go. And as I say, Damien didn't really think we had a brilliant time on the first stage, but I felt it was smooth. And when you're not overshooting or you're not spinning, you're not going sideways, you're going forward. So I think that's what counts. Look, we're going hard in the car. You feel you're going hard, but the car always felt safe. Never felt that you can sometimes, as I told him on rally, these forestry rallies, you can get that relaxed and you're worried that you're not up on the pace, but no. They're very relaxed when you're leading up to controls and everything. They're more relaxed than maybe tire rallies. I don't know why that is, but no, look, it's very relaxed in the car. There's no big panic on.
and are you focused on the modified class, or are you starting to look at is there any other scalps you could take?
Well, I suppose there's not enough people doing the historic class in the rally, so you've got to go for the overall thing, I suppose, and that's what we're looking to go for. And those lads like Young Caldwell and them front wheel drive cars are them brilliant cars in the forest, and they're going very, very hard in there as well. So look, staying in front of them is a job in itself as well, Yeah.
And I think, throughout the event you were within setting top 10 stage times bar one. Did you have a cutout or something, or was it
had a cutout? We thought all the hard work was over. The cars sort of literally completely cut out about a kilometre maybe into stage 5, I think it was, and we looked at one and we thought it's over, but I fitted about with pumps and the car fired up again, and he probably drove his heart out, knowing that he had lost 7 or 8 seconds. And to come off the stage, and you realised you was only 0.2 or 0.3 quicker than us. But I knew we made that up in the second half of the stage. That was probably the fastest we were through it, even though we hadn't the time to show for it. But we know we went very fast through that part of the stage. That's what you have to do.
And that, did that feel different even from the passenger seat? Did it feel like this is pretty special here?
When you're used to Damien and cycling, you don't pass a lot. You set it into your job and you don't get too excited about it anymore, Them cars are all going fast, So look, whether they're going a wee bit faster, I don't think you notice that much. You get so wrapped up and you're so tied up in what you're doing. I suppose a bit different for us. We always write our own notes, but in fairness to Kelly, and them notes are very, very good. Took a wee while, but look, they're very, very good. We have a wee quick look at them. Damien's a hard man to even get sitting down, as you can see tonight, even to look at a DVD.
Yes.
And it's not that he has learned the stages from the DVD. He doesn't really do that. It just depends on the notes, and whatever happens. But we did look at the DVD in that one night last week, and I think he says, for that offer, we'll see more bad stuff than all good stuff, and might make us go forward. On that note, we close.
And your overall impression of the Forestry Championship, we've seen over the last few years that it seems to have been reinvigorated, and it's definitely, the pace is going up, and the promotion, it has become the place to be almost now at this stage.
I think so. It suits a lot of people, including Damien, who's very busy working on ourselves. It suits it. We went down to, I think it was Dungarvan. We left Friday evening after work, and we were back on Saturday night with the rally done. So that does suit a lot of people. Recce's and that take a lot of time. So the format does suit people. And as I say, the organisers can't do enough for you. If you're running a bit late or whatever's going on, they're really helpful. And it's probably a wee bit different from the Tower in that point of view. I'm not being down on the organisers of the Tower or anything like that, but there's a different sort of a pressure at Tower rallies than there are in them rallies, and it is relaxed, and everybody's in a good frame. And as I say, with the J1000 drivers, it adds a complete new dimension. You have all these young lads running around and so excited and so into it, and fair play to them. They're going hard. As I said to you, they're looking at us oil boys, but them are young lads, and they're brilliant. They're brilliant, and they're pushing them cars to the limit. Particularly if they get a downhill, but as I say, they're flying, it's great to see young James as well. That's not naming him out, but he had two great runs over the last two rallies, and keeps nice and biting off a few fingernails he has left on him.
But you see, even at that young age, it's down to tenths of seconds. It's down, it's we often talk about a running wide or a missed gear change. And even at a junior 1000 level, it's already at that point.
That's what I've noticed in them last few rounds, is the J1000s are getting much tighter. You used to see a bit of consistency in the timing of them, but they're all getting onto their game now, and they are getting into these very tight margins in seconds. And that's why it is. They're doing their job, and they're doing it very well. If you give them young lads separated by a second or so, it's brilliant. Them rallies are tough. That one at the weekend was particularly good, but very tough rallies. Them other few rallies on them J1000, them wee cars on there's not simple to drive. Unfortunately, at the weekend it was brilliant. It was smooth, no big ruts. But some of them rallies, that's the cars we have, and some of them have very rough roads. And to drive them wee J1000s, and the power they have, you stuck in a rut, so not brilliant. You have to take your hat off to them, But they all have matured as the year went on as well. You could see the first stage. I think it was an arc with them until it was out. First stage, but that's not happening anymore. There's real consistency there, They're all getting into it,
Yes, and we talked earlier about David Crossan and the pace he sets. The good run there at the weekend, all year. Would you be would it be tempted maybe to go over and try one of these British Historic Championships just to see where the pace is at?
Don't be talking about championships today. Talk about a rally. Whatever chance we have it in a rally, maybe not a championship, but look, may happen. We may go and do a rally over there and see how it goes, but we'd probably like to do a few more here yet and see where it happens. But maybe before the end of the year, maybe Scotland or something. It would be nice to get in to see the pace they had there on the good smooth gravel. If you could get into a good smooth stage over there, I suppose everybody thinks when you bought a BDA car, you're heading for the 5 day. As I say, it's hard to get them for 5 minutes. Never mind.
but you know, we have such good events here now too. Like, you know, coming up now, you have Mitchellstown, I think, isn't it, coming up now in August?
Coming up in August, yeah.
And like at the stages down there are epic. Then you're into
they're all good stages, and like even Mayo were telling us, you know, unfortunately the Storm in the early part of the year, they could get 12 milers, you know, 12, 14 kilometre stages in Mayo, but unfortunately the weather, but the Storm messed that up on them.
Mm-hmm.
But the quality of the stages they have is unbelievable, and it's something they have for the future. They could have a fantastic gravel rally because they seem to have the stages. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Because you know, we can see the amount of clubs now that's shown interest in having gravel rallies. You know, whether it's the rotation thing in the national championship, that there's a year out for them. Maybe they're looking at gravel rallies as a source of income, or I don't know what it is.
It's amazing the amount of people that you meet at these rallies, and they haven't really rallied in gravel before, and they're all aged enough people, and they've done this gravel rally, and it doesn't matter where they finish. But they're all saying, we're not going back to the tire, we want to go to the gravel, like, you know. So it's amazing to see that, you know.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, you know. But look, I suppose the speed in the gravel probably is down. The speed in the tire has got massive. There's no question about it. And even those modified cars, they're travelling at a massive speed. And I suppose as a Mark II Escort driver told me down the field one day, he says you have yourselves and people coming off the stages and tapping the Kelly and set a 710 or whatever the case may be. And then you have some poor fella coming and he sets 820. And Killian might turn around and say, well, Damien Turry's done a 710, and be thinking, holy, why are you telling me that? So they go to the forestry and they're more relaxed. They're not really under pressure to do that. And nobody's really looking at who's doing what in a sense, you know. So I think those drivers who are, it's great to see some fun drivers still out there. Everybody doesn't have to be in the competitive edge. And I think they're more comfortable in the forestry for that reason, you know.
You're not the whole time comparing times. You're not kind of feeling that pressure the whole time.
Not feeling that pressure. So I think that makes them happy in the forestry, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a lot of people like ourselves, north of 50, maybe more, and they're purely enjoying it. They're having brilliant fun with it, you know.
And being able to slide the car about now too, because
that's what they want to do, you know.
Got so
like a lot of people moved into 2.5 cars in particular, and as I can tell different people that have them, they're no toys. They're not for sliding about. Them's unforgiving animals, and you will land up in the field just, and that's the way it's going to be. Yes. Whereas, you know, a good 2-litre car in the forest, they can have great fun with it. You know, even a 1600 car, they can have fun on it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Do you think for the historics, maybe the gravel maybe provides more of a level playing field, you know, particularly you're a bit more restricted, like with your suspension and stuff compared to the tar?
Very much so. The cat car just set up, it's very, very good in the forest, you know, and the tar probably would be different, all right, you know. And I suppose the BM has taken over and the tar has been the master of the historic car now in the tar. So, look, technology moved from a 70s Mark II Escort and a historic spec to a BMW, which came out obviously in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. So the BMW is going to have the advantage in the tar and the historics, like if the proper driver's on it, he's going to have an advantage. There's no question about that. Whereas that wouldn't be as big a thing in the forest.
Sure, yeah. And I suppose, you know, talking about tar, the big one's coming up in June. I would say the historic car will be put back in the shed and the blue car rolled back out again.
We told a lot of people that Damien was buying the historic car, so he would only have to take 2 days off work. He wouldn't have to do it on the Friday, so that's the reason the historic car was coming. But no, he has the blue car coming back out for hopefully for Donegal, all going well. That's the plan.
And we've seen the entry lists out there already. It's, class 14 is it's always bunkers in Donegal, but this year I think
it's always bunkers. I suppose look, we have a few guys that move on from it. I suppose Kevin's gone, Kevin Eves and Gary and
Milkman and all
Milkman, whatever his plan is, but that's a big change in it. Like there were 3 top drivers in it over the years too, you know. So look, there's still plenty there that goes very fast, and look, everybody's going to have to catch Kevin. But it's a marathon rally, and look, as we know from over the years, it can go wrong so fast, and we've led it, and we've been in second, and we've battled here and there, everywhere in the rally, and we went out last year, and sure we know what happened in the first stage. We cracked a sump, and look, that's what happens. We did go back out last year in Donegal, which was hard to get to go do, was to go back out and be done Saturday and Sunday. But we enjoyed them stages last year. The first time ever in Rally 2, and could say we enjoyed it because very hard to do that when you're not really on the competitive edge. But we sort of played and we set good times, and look, it's good experience supposed to have it done.
Yeah. And maybe if this year have taught you something as well too, is to go out and have fun. You know, not
Well,
to
I
maybe
think that's
just
what the
get wound
parents
up.
is about, and we'd like to get to Donegal. Like we did get to Donegal, I think it was 2 years ago, over in Donegal town, and Damien hadn't been out for a long time. We didn't go for any big mad thing on the Friday. I remember chatting to Kevin Eves. I think it was refuel on the Friday evening or whatever we were doing before driving back to Letterkenny, and Kevin, he referred something user to good hers, and I asked, why do you say that? He says, I had the car rack battered. He says, you're sitting only maybe 20 seconds or 30 seconds behind him. And we didn't go on that mission, which is probably a great thing if you can do that. And we ended up, Kevin Gallagher won the rally, and then us and Kevin Eves had the battle. Unfortunately, he fell off on the Glen on the second time over it, and we were second that year in Donegal. So, look, sometimes maybe that method works, but look, you can't fall asleep on the Friday either. Like, if you are, you're totally out of contention. So you have to, it's getting that pace from being really on the door handles on a Friday to being too slow, you know, so it's getting somewhere in between. So maybe that's what we'll try for, but when the flag goes down in Mallinhead, we'll see what happens.
So thanks very much there to the lads there. And now this weekend, Pat O'Connor from the COC, from the Laois Heartlands, is going to join us now and to hear about their event. Connor, it's looking really, really good.
Yeah, look, so some great new stages on the event, but a fantastic entry, Kevin. Like, amazing the entry they have, and not all down to the Donegal vibe either.
No, like, you know, yes, there's a certain cohort of them are, you know, doing their Donegal prep there too, but there's a strong entry there regardless, and it has to be put down to, you know, a lot of work put in there by the club.
That's it. Like, it stands to the club, the work they've done over the last few years. You know, they're running every second year now, and the effort that goes into that event. And, you know, again, this year they've picked out a new location for service. What do you call it? And it's just a real competitor friendly event that's been put on.
That's for sure. So yeah, let's hear from Pat. Pat, we're only days away now from the big two-wheel drive rally of the year so far. What an entry list you've pulled together.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, we probably couldn't believe it ourselves. You're always sitting there saying, you know, Jesus, I hope I get an entry. You're stuck 2 weeks after Cavan, you know, will those lads come south? And then 2 weeks before Donegal, well, is everybody saving themselves? And there's always, I suppose, a great logic. We've always picked stages that are fast and flowing, you know, to try and, I always call it like the back half of Macala, you know, that sort of stage out there. That's the sort of character we go for. And this year we went for two completely new ones, and we put the word out, but it seems to be well. We're sitting there. I'm sitting there complaining that there aren't enough withdrawals. I'm trying to fit lads from the reserve list in. I'm getting lots of phone calls, but I'm struggling at the minute. We had 100 and almost 170 entries. So yeah, fantastic. Weren't expecting it, but really, really good.
Yeah. And like we've seen, you know, over the last couple of years that, you know, the mini stages format has really, you know, come back again. It was kind of almost disappeared there for a few years, but I think it's the quality of the events and, you know, the as you say, picking the right stages for the cars.
Yeah, I think the events, I mean, ourselves and Immakilly would sort of have mirrored each other for a couple of years there. And they were very innovative there in their early years, putting on shakedown stages, doing stuff like this, you know. So I think that we're sort of, we used to feel a bit aggrieved that we weren't getting national rounds and we weren't getting this, but I think it threw it back to us and said, well, no, make your event special and make your event attractive. We went into the middle of Portlaoise town there for many years. People who'd have known the event for years. You park your car on Saturday morning, you'll walk to the hotel, you'll walk to the service area, you'll walk to Park Ferme, you'll walk to Supermax, you'll walk to you know, a stress-free weekend with local stages. Now we've moved out of Portlaoise over to Stradbally, so we're in our service area and everything's in the area where the electric picnic is normally held. So, but we've got the same thing. We're out of town, but you'll walk from Trailer Park, Park Ferme, Scrutineer, and the whole way around it. And then to try and pick stages, I mean, the guys who are entering this, class 14, class 13 cars, these guys are out for a win. You know, they're not there for a class pot, and mini stages are the only place they're going to get a win. And there was probably a couple of years there where you had big Evos and big Evo drivers, and on a wet day they could take a mini stages, you know, but now they're sort of all moved out of the systems. It'll be interesting to see some of the Rally 3 cars as they come along in a couple of years' time. If we get a few fast pilots, how quick can a Rally 3 go against a a class 14. I'd say the 14 will shade it most of the time, especially in the summer.
But there's not. That's the one thing where the rain clouds is never far away, and like we've seen it. Like as you say, that in the right hands, a Rally 3 car in damp conditions, you would.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to know where to put your money there, wouldn't it?
But Dave, I mean, and how it pans out. The very first year we ran 2011, so this year will be our 11th running. It's I suppose the start of our second decade. And the first year, Alan Ring was winning, early in the day, and he had a spin, and David Condell in a 2-wheel drive car in the lashing rain all day ended up winning the event. That year.
Yes.
And if I remember, I think there was a twin cam about third or fourth that year, so a 2-liter twin cam. So yeah, anything can happen because of course it depends on the stages and it depends on the commitment and who's driving or whatever. So it's one Alan Ring left behind him. We're trying to get him back in the M3, so maybe next year we get a few M3s in here as well. It'd be great to see.
Yeah, because these M3s, the way they're going at the historic rally, and just we're of an age that we appreciate that that throaty roar of the M3.
Yeah, and what was great? Where were they running them in Killarney? And I think they ran them as a bunch. Like there was 3 or 4 came through together, and it was just one after the other after the other. That was worth the entry money alone.
And then you touched on them too, like the way you have got everything centralised this year too. You're not traipsing all around. You have to park the trailer over here, and then you have to go over here then for your scrutineer and all. Everything's all contained in the one area.
Yeah, no, it's great and it's very accessible. I mean, we're very lucky here in Stradbally because I suppose the town and the village is very used to events. The guards are used to events. We've got a road infrastructure from north, south, east and west, whether it's the electric picnic, whether it's the steam rally, whether it's the ploughing championships that are on here year after year. That everybody's used to events and everybody's used to setting up for events and they're welcomed and easy. And we've had a great welcome. From the business community in terms of finding yards and spaces. Like we've had not one person say no to us. Can I use your yard? Can I do this? Can I do that? I should work away. And it's great. They're going around telling me you must have a fierce headache with all the paperwork you have to do. And I said, well, yeah, do you need paperwork? Oh, here, work away. You'll be fine. Keep going. Just get it done. So yeah, no, it's great so far, and there's great buy-in from club members, if you like, and people. It's the one thing that is difficult with a 2-year calendar is keeping people's interest in the year in between.
Yes.
So you really have to wake everybody up, and you're trying to get everybody's attention again 6-7 months beforehand, and you've it's like putting the band back together and getting into rehearsals and figuring the whole thing out again. So
yes,
but it's working for us, and people have really gone for it this year. Short run out to the first stage, only 3 kilometres, 11.5 kilometre stage. After that, very tight at the start. Opens up then probably for 3/4 of it, and then there's a sting in the tail, really, really tight for the last 2-3k of it as well. So it'll do it. Second stage then, it's only a 10 kilometre run out to the second stage. It's a full 15 kilometres second stage. No chicanes in it. One small jump in it, but after that, no straight longer than probably 150 meters. You cannot see down through this thing. You have to, it's fast, but you have to have your notes spot on. So there's time to be made in it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be brave. You just have to have really good. No, brave will probably give you an airplane crash. So don't worry about that. So this is about getting your notes right and pacing yourself through it, and the time to be made there.
Mm-hmm. And then just a quick run back into service then do that another 2 more times after that.
Yeah, we've a long, very relaxed service time. You have 50 and 55 minute services. So refueling area is 50 meters. It's almost a sort of the exit and adjacent park to the service area. Plenty of shops in the town, plenty of restaurants in the town, plenty of anything that. So even there's probably time enough if you wanted to walk out and get yourself a healthy salad. There's a lot of these lads nowadays. You'll probably actually manage that and get back in and be in time to go again.
And if you have your salad and you want a side of a burger and chips alongside it, it would be agreeable.
Well, sure, yeah, you have to neutralise the salad somehow, Kevin. Too much of a good thing might be the best. It's interesting as well. Like we're just looking, for I suppose many stages, again talking about where should they be in the future or where do they fit well, and you have to give people ambitions to do stuff, that, and you've clubmen gone out here, local clubmen who come out for probably the once a year event, and they're competing against David Bogie from Scotland, Paul Rowley from America, There's a couple of guys have listed Australia. There's a local guy coming back from Oman who's heading on to Donegal to do Donegal a fortnight later, so the stories that you remember when we started out rallying, the stories about how, well, Austin McHale went down there and I was only 10 cars behind him. Well, you weren't, you were only 60 cars behind him, but you're shortened to 10 over a few years. So stories like that, like they're in mini stages. So, and like the thoughts of someone looking at Stafford and these Darians coming down these stages and some of these boys, Simon Reid and a few different guys who are pushing, and they're all going for the win. They're not out just to run it in. This is not a get ready for something. They're going for the win, and they're going to beat some of the Donegal names. That's what they're trying to do this Sunday. So it should be, Yeah,
and it would be very unfair to say that oh yes, sir, you got a great entry because of Donegal. Yes, there's guys that's there to do as a warm up for Donegal, but there's also guys going to compete there that's not going to Donegal, and they're every bit as capable of winning this rally as anybody going on to do Donegal.
I think so. I think, I know it often gets said, but on the day, with the level of commitment and all the different complexity that's going on in guys' heads, particularly around the time of year or whatever, there's guys there probably seeded 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and they're in with a really good shout, and they perhaps don't have the same pressure on them that some of the guys up front who are thinking about a couple of weeks' time and stuff as well. So it's all there. It's all there for grabbing, and at the end of the day, where are you going to get in a two-wheel drive car today? Where are you going to get a shot at taking an overall winner's trophy? It only happens 3 times this year.
That's the thing, because we spoke to David Moffat there at the tail end of last year, and that's what he was saying. The whole mini stages format is so good. You put on a set of tyres, more or less do you for the whole day, and it's so much more. You talked about the service area, much more relaxed. It's not the same demands on you, I suppose, maybe the way of putting it. Is there a merit maybe at some point of looking at a challenge or championships? Maybe as you could be a bit constraining, but is there something there could be done for competitors?
I think there is. I mean, when you look at Carlow's Mark II Challenge, that's been exceptionally, successful for them for many years, and good luck to them. And they're our neighbours, and we get great help from them and everything else, And without taking anything from them, maybe there is where can you reflect the effort and the skill and the commitment and everything that some of these two-wheel drive people are coming in. Homologation is fantastic. That's the way things are. It's the way things have to be. But I suppose we're coming at it from a clubman's end of it, and this is the World Championship for clubmen. Irish Class 14 cars is the World Championship for clubmen rallying. Whether you like it or not, and whether you agree with it and everything else, it is what it is. So wouldn't it be nice maybe some way to find a proper space for that, or to reflect it, rather than just maybe one pot on one day sometime, to make a bit more of it to that. I am conscious that the mini stages as well, they really were designed initially to create space for guys to compete at that clubman level, when you couldn't get entries, when in the Celtic Tiger, when the boom was on and everything. So there's probably a little bit of a balancing in there, but really, as the internationals and the nationals take much more of a homologated feel to it and have much more depth in terms of homologated cars, then maybe there is a space to say, well, for clubman cars, as for what they are at the end of it, very fast and epic clubman cars. But, that spirit, that true spirit of rallying and building something in your shed and taking it out there, that maybe there's a place for that, and maybe the mini stages can form that little showcase for that. I think there's all the guys who run mini stages will be delighted with that idea,
And Pat, from a club perspective, obviously, the emphasis is on making this as a interesting and competitive rally as possible for the crews taking part. But also, how do you balance that out with trying to make it spectator friendly as well?
Yeah, so I think that I think they go hand in hand, Connor, to tell you the truth, because I think when you have relatively evenly matched cars, and for us, particularly for the clubman cars, these things are way more spectacular, fully respectfully to an R2 Fiesta, like a well-driven R2, a well-driven R4. What are they now? What I'm
Rally 2 R5 cars, yeah.
Well, no, they're spectacular.
Oh, the
more
R4,
thinking about. I'm thinking about the equivalent money homologated car to your Class 13 car or your Class 14 car.
So you're like a Rally 3, Rally 4 car.
Rally 3, Rally 4, and not taking anything away from the great pilots in those cars, But Frank Kelly, where are you going to see? Like, what homologated car is ever going to attract that level of spectator interest? And I know it's okay for the experts and all of us who are fully aware of what all the difference in the classes of car. But getting guys to come out and stand in a ditch one day a year, this is all they'll ever see. They will talk about that for a fortnight when they go away from it. That's they just love it. So I think it does go hand in hand. I think at the top level, fine. There's the glamour of a national event. There's the glamour of a Killarney and the glamour of a West Cork and all of that. But there's the sheer excitement of like a Darien being chased by an escort down a narrow lane in a June day when the hedges are grown out and there's these things, it doesn't even look like there's enough space in the road for this thing. What are people who've never seen one before going to think? It's awesome.
And as you said earlier too, it's Pat who as a builder by day, getting the chance to drive down the same bit of road as Frank Kelly or whatever, and he has sweated blood, sweat and tears just to compete in that rally, and it could be the one rally he does that year, and that's what he can afford, but he cuts his cloth to suit himself.
Absolutely, and it's probably as important to him to make sure that all his neighbours see him going down that road, and he spends more time maybe checking out the window to make sure he's waved at everybody down the road. That's an important part of it, and that's what makes people smile at the end of the day and makes people want to organise events and make spectators want to let you close the roads in front of their houses and let you rally in front of them and do all of that, We're really conscious. We're in a new area this year. We have 2 brand new stages with a whole new 2 sets of residents. And there is no rural Ireland anymore. We've 250 houses on one stage and 200 houses on the other stage, So that's 450 people who are going to be locked up for the day. Never mind the internal roads and the interconnected roads and everything else, we've gone to them, we've spoken to them, we've managed to deal with all of their concerns and their issues and their access issues and everything, and they're all now excited and looking forward to it. So, we have to put on a good show, and that's, I'm sure our competitors, that entry list certainly is going to do that for people anyway.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose, you talked earlier as well too about the community buy-in. You need the guards to be on board, you need, them 450 houses to be on board, and all the local businesses. This, it's not Pat O'Connor's on this rally. It's the whole community has to embrace this to make it, to make it the event work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose there's probably, like most events, I'd say there's probably there's a key core group of 10 to 12 people there who are, working out there. And these people are putting in 2-3 days a week at this for 6 months, And there's the next layer out then. There's another 20 people who we're stuck for someone to come and do PR on Sunday. It's fine. Yeah. I'll come on and I'll drag the missus with me as well, And then, does anyone know a yard we can use for so-and-so? I'll ring Seamus knows Jim, we brought it out. So, and that's, where we're at with our event, and that's the level and the clubman event. But I think that's what actually competitors always come back to us and say, it's a real friendly, it's a real easy day, it's a real competitive day as well, but you do it right, and you treat us right, and it's a competitors event organised by competitors, if you like, as well. So we're not going for make sure we get on TV tonight or the Sunday game. That's not going to happen. It's about what we create for the people who are here on the day. That's what's important, and that's what they'll remember, and that's why they'll let us come back again, and why competitors will come back again, and they do, they do come back to us again and again. So we're very thankful for that.
Yeah, and I suppose then, just to maybe start, to wrap things up, you mentioned, there's 3 mini stages this year, and there is, like, the clubs have pulled together, and there's an exciting initiative being developed.
So ourselves in McKilly and Limerick are running 3 mini stages this year, and we did kick around the idea of a championship, but probably with enough to be doing, and we didn't get that far with it. However, we did create an incentive scheme, and hopefully, I think that may be again some of the reason why we've got a strong entry and why hopefully it'll go to Immakelly and go to Limerick as well. It's really simple. It's called a challenge. The challenge is you have to turn up on the start line of the first stage of the 3 events. That's the challenge. If you can manage that, you're in the hat for a prize. So we've created a prize fund of €1,500 between the 3 clubs, and then on the first service of Limerick, the 3rd event, there'll be a raffle. It's as simple as that. If you've gotten through onto the start line of the first stage of those 3 events, your name is in the hat, and you can almost win your entry back. So 3 people are going to get their entry back. Hopefully, you're close to.
That's and that and at this level, the entry fee means an awful lot to those guys. You know, it's not, you know, we're not talking about, you know, top line businessmen. An entry fee is just a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it's, we try to do something, you know, that's meaningful to people as well. You know, that it's not just you know, it's we'll have trophies, we have all of that sort of thing, but you know, it's actually impactful to people, and they can sit there and say, well, geez, that's great. You know, I did 3 rallies this year and I only paid for 2 of them. You know, you feel like you had a good deal then if you did something like that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pat, I believe there's a new trophy on offer this weekend.
Yeah, so a club member of ours, a guy called Owen Gorman, lost his life a number of years ago in a tragic accident, and with his family, we've talked about for a number of years, commemorating Owen and remembering Owen as we have remembered some other ex-club members with trophies. And the Gorman family have very, very kindly this year decided to purchase a new trophy, and they've awarded us that trophy to be awarded at a different class possibly every year at the event. So this year it's being awarded. We run a Twin Cam Challenge. It's a very elite group, the Twin Cam Challenge, a relatively small number, but they're very enthusiastic and very proud. So we have an open class Twin Cam Challenge. So this year there'll be the Owen Gorman Memorial Trophy. Will be, for the first time, will be presented to the winner of the Twin Cam Open Challenge. We also had another sad news in our club last week. We lost one of our very, very long-time members, and lots of people around the country will know Larry Brady for many, many years. He started out in civics. He got a bad escort habit for a while, and he got cured of that and went back into civics again. But after an illness, Larry passed away last week. So we'll all be remembering him this weekend as well, and where he would have been standing on a ditch somewhere dispensing his wisdom as to the driving standards he was seeing in front of him. So we remember Larry, but no. It's a good happy memories we have together.
So thanks very much there to Pat, and best of luck to all competing at the weekend, and hopefully the weather's kind to you. So that is the latest episode of Krunching Gears, the Rally podcast. Until the next time, take care, speak soon, and bye.
That's the proudest day, and the proudest time, and the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all we said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.